Hi, Brad. How are you? Hi.
Good, Lucas. Nice to see you again.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great in sunny Santa Barbara,
Oh, wow.
California.
I wish it was here. I mean, we have a ton of snow, so it's like crazy.
I heard live from Denmark, overseas.
So I think we're just gonna go for it. But I need to just make a statement to our audience. I'm just gonna do that, and then we'll just go into it, right?
You bet. I'll follow your lead, Lucas.
And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Hi everyone, this is Lucas Alexander, Age of Truth TV. Just before we go on with our very special guest, Brad Olsen, today, it's going to be a fascinating and wonderful, exciting episode, I'm sure. I just have a little bit of information for you because the reason we've not had new shows out lately is because our channel has been heavily challenged and we've had strikes and we had so many of our shows taken down, censored by this platform. So much of our hard work from 2020 in regards to the world crisis has been taken off. But you can find all of the deleted episodes on our alternative channels on BitChute, on Brighteon, on Rumble, and soon other places as well. And please search for Age of Truth TV and subscribe to our channels there so we can build an audience there as well. You can find all of it. All of it is linked, of course, to our website, ageoftruth.tv. So if ever you're missing an episode or anything, you can always find it on Age of Truth TV. So now I think Brad Olsen is ready. So let's roll the intro and our message from our producer, Lauke Felix Black.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoy our shows, please like our videos and subscribe to our channel. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And you can support us via PayPal, Patreon, Bitcoin, and through our website, ageoftruth.tv.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Copenhagen, Denmark. It's February 2021 and we are ready today with a very special friend to the show. He's an award-winning author, lecturer, publishing company executive, and longtime researcher of ancient civilizations, history, mythology, alien races, the occult, and spirituality. And he's connecting almost all of the dots in his newly published book, Beyond the Esoteric, Escaping Prison Planet. Brad Olsen. Good evening from Copenhagen, Denmark, and good morning to a very special friend of Age of Truth TV. It's Brad Olsen joining us from Santa Barbara in California. It's wonderful to have you on again, and welcome back on the show.
Hey, Lucas. It's great to be on with you. And really sorry to hear about all the censorship that you guys have been going through this year. It's a real tough year, really, for everyone. You're not alone in this. We may have to change your name to Age of Censorship if this keeps going on. But we're here now, so we'll make the most of it.
Absolutely, and it's great to have you back, Brad. You are breaking up a little bit, so if we do have to face some problems with the sound or the connection, we'll just take it again. And
All right, sounds good.
Brad, you've just released a new book, Beyond the Esoteric. Escaping the Prison Planet is your latest book.
Yes.
And it's a huge book, and it's part of your esoteric series. And we're going to go into all of those, or some selected of all of those fascinating topics that you are writing about. So, Brad, Satan is a bad guy. We don't like him, we don't want him. He's not welcome here on planet Earth. But the top elitists ruling this Earth behind the scenes seemingly is welcoming that damn devil and do want him present here. But many people have come out and spoken about them performing satanic blood sacrifices and rituals. Is this a manipulation of energy to keep the population enslaved on this, a prison planet?
That is a great opening question, Lucas. And in America, we have the unofficial holiday called Super Bowl Sunday. It's broadcast around the world, including a very infamous halftime show by a performer called The Weeknd that was just loaded with both satanic symbolism and all kinds of derivations from all that is moral and good. If you look at it and see the coding that's involved, what the performer is doing, evoking demons, muzzling people with these masks on, and then in the end just opening up to mayhem in the cities are burning, and so much symbolism that's very disturbing. They're coming out in the open with it now, Lucas. It's not even really so veiled anymore. Although they have to do it in some ways, it's hidden in plain sight. I get into that quite a bit in Beyond Esoteric because all that is hidden is being revealed. And so now we have this great opportunity to really explore that which has for so long been in this veiled sort of secrecy mode, but they're coming right out with it. I think part of that is because they're being exposed by people like yourself and what I write about in my books. And they just have to come out with the big play right now. And this is what Albert Pike said over 100 years ago when he predicted the 3 world wars leading up to this, that it would be in this age when we just go against each other. But humanity's not going to do that. We don't want a World War III. We don't want to fight each other. We've got nothing against you in Denmark, and hopefully you against us in America. We're human beings here. But they think of us as lesser than them. We're the commoners to them, and they're above us, and they're the controllers, and they like their power. So they do these things, and it is in an effort to continue to control over us. And then we can go into the whole concept of who is Satan, what is Lucifer, and perhaps they are entities, human-like, but not quite human, but maybe with greater abilities interceding in the 4th dimension. And I certainly go into extraterrestrial agendas in Beyond Esoteric. So you mentioned the subtitle, which is Escaping Prison Planet. And one thing I like to do with my interviews, Lucas, and you go along with this, is to ask you, what is your concept of escaping prison planet? What does that mean to you, and how can we escape?
Well, that certainly is a question that I want to go into with you certainly today. And I think all of the work that we've been doing, you know, here at Age of Truth TV for 10 years now. We started in 2011. I think all of this connecting all of the dots and all of those many fascinating guests that we've had on, I think it's all a very big piece in the puzzle. And I think once you go down that path of enlightenment, you can't really go back. And you know, you can't, it's almost like you are in a parallel dimension from all of the other people on this planet. It's almost quite difficult to be around all of these people. You look out of the window, you see all of those masked, muscled faces, and it's like, really, am I on this same timeline, on this same in the same world. And you know, we are, and I know you are as well, and a lot of the people we know, we are surrounded and around people who are aware, who have woken up to what is going on, and we've been doing this for so many years. I think the worst thing actually is that everything we've been reporting about for so many years, and I've been researching this for many more years than I've been doing Age of Truth, has come true in 1 year in 2020. And it's almost unfathomable to understand and to think that this is actually a reality we live in. And I think the more we can spread this awareness, the more we can come out and talk about this, talk to great people like you and other wonderful researchers. And it's the best way we can do to expand our consciousness and to open up that pineal gland, which is needed in order to break free of this so-called prison planet, and to say no, to understand that our souls are not trapped. We are not really trapped. It's an illusion within the illusion, and we are part of such a great illusion, and all we need to do is to actually say no, and also to try and master our energy, which I also want to get into with you, because everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, like Nikola Tesla said. In fact, I would actually like to read something written by you for your latest book, and that is totally relevant, of course, for the conversation we're about to have today. So this is amazing, and I'm in full agreement. I totally agree with what you are writing here. I could have written that myself, so I think this is really profound. So this is a quote by Brad Olsen. Truly, the duality in our world needs some context. You can go into a pitch black room full of evil, full of darkness, and light a little candle, and instantly that darkness flees. But you cannot do the opposite. You can't go into a well-lit room full of truth, wisdom, righteousness, joy, health, and harmony with a universal power, and try with any amount of darkness and go into that well-lit room and have any effect whatsoever. This is the nature of the earth dilemma that we face today. However, with only a few flickers of light in the darkness, there is still a shift toward getting brighter every day. The greatest lesson to remember is that we are on the winning side, and we will win in the end. This is really amazing. This is quite beautiful, and I think it actually says it all.
And you're only in the opening chapter, Lucas. There's a lot more to go, but you're absolutely right. When you discover the darkness and you shine a light on it, this is what they hate the most. That's why when you have a cockroach infested home and you turn the lights on, they go scurrying away. That's what these dark forces are doing too. And the more we can shine a light on them, not only do we expose their agenda, but we lessen their power. And that's really what it's all about, is if we can take their power away and at the same time empower ourselves, then this is the steps required to win this battle. And it very much is a spiritual battle. And I'm glad you started this conversation this way, Lucas, because a lot of people don't understand that, or just see it as sort of the superficial shenanigans on the halftime show. But everything has meaning. There's symbolism everywhere. And when you start to read it, when you start to see it in plain sight, it just makes perfect sense as to what they're doing, what they're trying to socially program us into thinking.
Mm-hmm. So, if there is such a thing as an intergalactic federation of light consisting of selected representatives of different alien species working for the greater good and possibly even making peace treaties between different galactic federations or planetary systems, why don't they help us now and intervene right now here on this planet at this very crucial moment while we're all facing the most difficult and horrendous world crisis possibly in human history?
Well, they may be helping us in a unseen kind of way. We are in a quiet war with invisible weapons, so to speak, that we can't really see or perceive. It hasn't gone so kinetic that we see fighter planes blowing each other up in the sky, but there are things happening on the etheric level. And channelers, people who intercede with good forces, do get their direction from benevolent ETs. But I think it's what is portrayed in the TV series Star Trek, that there is a prime directive. And that prime directive says that advanced civilizations are not allowed to directly interfere with the evolution of an up-and-coming civilization such as ours here on Earth. It's really up to us humans to get our act together. And that makes a lot of sense because it's really our activity that's going to change the course of this planet.
But that will make a lot of people think that it's actually just bogus, that it's just nonsense, hocus pocus, all of this stuff that they say about the Intergalactic Federation of Light, and this is wishful thinking. If they don't want to help us, we're quarantined, we're locked down on a prison planet. Well, what is actually really then going on? Do you think this is real? Do you think we have help from outside, or are they just watching us going down the drain, basically, and being surrounded by all of these satanic forces and energy?
Well, they are here and they are helping, but they're doing it in indirect ways. And just think of it like this. If they were to say, land their craft on the White House lawn and announce themselves, hey, we're here, we're going to start to help humanity. Well, a couple things would happen. First of all, they might be the gods or the lords of old. Perhaps what we see in the Bible and other ancient texts, when these gods came down from heaven, they were viewed as these entities that were above humans. So perhaps they don't want to play babysitter. Maybe they want us to solve our own problems. But at the same time, they can intercede on our behalf by, let's say, for example, there were craft coming here to invade. Well, I think they would prevent that. Here's another good example. It is known, and there are many witness testimony from the military, that if we were to engage in a nuclear war with, say, Russia or China, that they would shoot the missiles down. And they've already done that. There's actually very good video footage from Vandenberg Air Force Base, not too far from where I'm at right now, where they're testing a missile and a UFO comes in and shoots it with beams of light and then just disintegrates it and drops it back to the Earth. So that they have gone so far as to say, we will not allow you to destroy yourself, but we're going to let you progress as the way an evolving civilization is going to go. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. That's saying that humans have the power to make the change that is necessary to win this spiritual war.
Mm-hmm. But if the governments around the world, supposedly a lot of researchers say and claim, if they are working with malevolent forces, such as the reptilian race and maybe even the insectoids, or whoever they are working with, and the greys behind the scenes in order to control the planet and enslave us and imprison our minds with mind control technique, why would these benevolent forces not help us and intervene and stop these bad aliens from this control mania?
Well, that's a great question. And then you could also say, well, how come the reptilians are allowed to operate here if there is this prime directive? Well, think about it, Lucas. We've always been taught to look to the skies. Maybe we'll see some crafts come down. The extraterrestrials up there. What about the inner terrestrials right here? And I go into underground bases, including extraterrestrial bases that have been here for a very long time. I call them legacy bases. We have one in North America that's quite infamous, known as Dulce. There's another one in the Aleutian Islands, Solomon Islands, Lake Titicaca, Mount Shasta. These are all very old extraterrestrial bases, some with good entities, some with bad. My point is this: every extraterrestrial species, as well as the human race, has an agenda, what they're doing and what they're up to and what they want to see happen. Now, in our case on Earth, we've had our systems hijacked. And that's why in the first section of Beyond Esoteric, I have a section called Neo-Fascism. So unless we understand the mode of operation, how they're doing it, and how they're manipulating us, we'll never be able to overcome them. You can't beat an enemy that you don't even know how they operate or how they exist. So we really have to go into some of the mechanics of how this deep state, secret government, how they're working, and to your question, how they also interact with some of these malevolent ETs that do not have the whole of humanity in their high esteem. So what I often say on interviews, it doesn't matter what an extraterrestrial looks like, their skin color, if they've got slits in their eyes, they have scales, they have multiple appendages. All that matters is, are they service to self or are they service to others? And that distinguishes benevolent ETs from the malevolent ones that certainly have an agenda that serves themselves. So that is a very important distinction going forward whenever we talk about exopolitics and how ETs may be interacting with Earthlings and what their agenda is. And if they are here in service to all, then they're not going to be the ones doing the abductions against our will. They're not going to be the ones doing the cattle mutilations and other nefarious activities. Those are the service to self ones.
Definitely. And we could also go into how we could dissolve this whole power structure and maybe this alien takeover, but it's probably been going on for eons, maybe. So would it be too positive or too enthusiastic to think that it could actually change now and we could get rid of them?
Well, it can change now and we will get rid of them. But first we have to know what we're up against. See, that's the whole challenge for the human race. And they have done such a good job of keeping us contained and are thinking very limited and to disguise themselves. Like the cockroach analogy, their best way to operate is unseen and in the dark and keeping us ignorant. Why do you think the mass media is just so mindless these days? I can't watch it for more than 5 minutes before it's just laughably stupid and so transparent what is really being done, just to lock us all into commercialism and to sexualize everyone, including children, and to just be like the saying of Aleister Crowley, do art their will. Just do what you want. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do, just do it. And that's saying don't have any moral. Don't be concerned with who you might be affecting. And so everything is inverted. This is the way the occult works. Everything gets inverted the way they want to play the game, but they'll show you a different kind of way of really doing it. So this is very important to know the rules of engagement, so to speak, what they're trying to make us do versus what they really are after. And that is the control of the planet, but they're losing it. They've had it for many, many centuries, but they're losing it very rapidly. Why? Because people are waking up. This is the Great Awakening. And when you start to see it, it's like the magician's trick. Once you see how they pull the rabbit out of their sleeve, you'll never see that trick again. They can't fool you again. And that's the beautiful thing. And that's why I think the Age of Truth is a great name for your show, Lucas, because this is how people wake up, is when they start to see the magician's trick, they'll never go back And then they'll continue to research more and get more involved in these subjects.
Yeah. But this is also leading me back to my very first question. Why do you think they are performing these satanic rituals? Is this a manipulation of energy? I mean, a lot of people, satanic ritual abuse survivors and MK Ultra survivors and others who's been part of it or seen this or heard about it, has come out and talked about how they are actually doing this. But why? I mean, can we suspect that they are all into this pedophilia, or is this a knowledge, an occult, even esoteric knowledge of how to create a portal to allow these dark entities, archons? We talked about this on a previous show, an interview we did with you. And I call the devil him, but that's a Christian term, but let's just say an entity or deity or something. Is this a special knowledge where they can actually allow these creatures or interdimensional beings to enter, to do something, and then what?
Well, that's exactly it. All of the above. And the entry is then the possession of the person. I didn't grow up Christian, but I have a new respect for it. This whole notion of making a deal with the devil and selling your soul. I think those are very real phenomenon, that if somebody dabbles in the occult, we've all been freaked out by playing with the Ouija board, right? How true it seems to be. Well, also more benign forms such as the I Ching or tarot cards. But these are all forms of divination. These are all ways that the unseen realms can come into our reality and affect our way of thinking. But more to your point on the mass hypnosis, and this is the MK Ultra, and I do have a chapter of MK Ultra and Beyond Esoteric in the fascist section, because it's very important for people to understand how we have been all affected by this. Do you know why it's MK? And it does stand for mind control, but it's spelled with a K, because it comes from Germany, Nazi Germany. They spell control with a K.
Mind control.
Controle, yeah. After World War II, as part of Project Paperclip. So not only did we get the rocket scientists like Werner von Braun and Hermann Oberich, but we also got Reinhard Gehlen, who helped set up the CIA and the whole spy apparatus. But then you had these MK Ultra psychiatrists coming over here who are very keenly interested on doing these mass hypnosis programming. This is how Owsley, who was creating this LSD in the 60s, was allowed to just flood the market with LSD because they thought they can control the masses if everybody was tripping. Didn't really work out that way, and then they made it illegal. But they were trying mass psychosis type programming, and that's exactly what the media is all about. That has been hijacked, and it is used in subliminal ways, below our threshold of perception, and also in overt ways to get us to go along with things. You see, because we have free will on this planet. Each one of us can make a decision which way we want to go. If we're going to believe this stuff and go along with it, or if we're going to reject it. And they don't want people to reject it. They want us to go along with it. And I know in Denmark, you guys have been very good about protesting these draconian laws that are coming down the pike. And I think here in America, we're right behind you guys. I don't know if we're going to get the same amount of people to get out and protest, but I have to hand it to you, Lucas. You guys have done a great job, and you're on the world stage as being one of the first countries to counter this and have your politicians back down.
Well, that's the story they want you all to believe, because in is it today or maybe tomorrow or something, they will vote again for the epidemic law. So everybody thought that they were going to change it and that we were part of changing all of that because there were a lot of protests. But now they're going to do it again, and the papers are full of how they want to force people to do things, force them to take vaccinations, and force them to, well, this pass thing so that you can be allowed to travel, to work, and to do other things. So I think Denmark is very much a testing ground, a test country. It's always been like that because we're a small population, only of 5 to 6 million people, and you can easily see if something works or not. So this is what has always happened here, and we have, we are quite equal. There's a good, well, infrastructure, I guess, you would say, and it's very socialistic, which can benefit the population in certain ways and certainly not in others. And these days it's very difficult. So that was just a long rant about what's actually going on here. It's a little bit more difficult than what the foreign, the international press wants people to believe. But let's really hope it doesn't go down, and let's hope this doesn't happen. But please get back to your book here, because you talk about the Nazi connection. Please tell us a little bit about the Nazi connection to this modern day and age society, and the Nazi connection to the deep state political and esoteric top elitists. This is, of course, connected to Operation Paperclip, MK Ultra, the Real Society, Tula Society, and media propaganda, which I guess is Project Operation Mockingbird. So please explain a little bit about these topics. You also talked about Werner von Braun, this German scientist that the CIA brought over during Operation Paperclip. And I know you know so much about this, so please tell people a little bit about this connection.
All my favorite subjects, Lucas. You know my my warm spot here. And beyond esoteric, here's some images of grandfather Prescott Bush, who was a father to George Herbert Walker Bush, and his grandson.
I can see that there's a lovely picture of Barbara Bush in there, huh? Next to Alistair Crowley. I wonder if they were connected.
Alistair Crowley. Look at that. You'll have to read the detailed book about how they were connected, and indeed,
they look a little bit alike, don't they?
Yeah, you could say that there's a similarity there. Same cheekbones, same mannerisms, hand signs, this and that. Oh, you could say it's coincidence, but I think now, Alec, we know there's not really any coincidences anymore. It all kind of lines up once you find this stuff out. But along your lines of MK Ultra, to really get into the real mind control of all this, and how the CIA very much involved in doing these horrific experiments on children and people without their will, and just doing these things to try to find the best way to control individuals, and also on a mass level. It's really insidious the way they went about these programs without people's consent or allowing their free will to say no. And it's just one of these things that, combined with everything else that's been going on here, just shows us that they have no regard for free people. They think of us very contemptuously. We're the commoners. We're lower than they are. They can do what they want to us. We're chattel to them. And this goes along the lines of how these malevolent ETs think, that we really are viewed as a food source. And I have a chapter in Beyond Esoteric called Being Aware of Predatory Species. And not a lot of people would ever think that humans are anything but the top of the food chain. But in fact, I show pretty good evidence that indeed we are very much part of their food source. And this goes into the adrenochrome, and this goes into human sacrifices. Here's an image from the Mayan and the Aztec. We're always doing the ritualistic pulling out of a beating heart. And humans have been very bad to each other throughout history. But I have to propose this, Lucas, that we're being incentivized or we're being motivated by these malevolent ET groups that perhaps have a motive or a taste for human flesh, getting people to work on their behalf. There's a quote from the great Bill Cooper in his first address at the UFO Congress in 1989. And this is the first time he spoke in public, and he was laying out a big stack of documents that he got from naval intelligence. And he even said in the talk, I don't even know if I'm going to walk out of this place alive, because he was really putting his life on the line. And one of his sayings, not only was a great one, was, you put the aliens in the middle of this stuff and you get all the answers. But one that's always stuck with me is when he was going through the documents and seeing the extent of the malevolent ETs throughout history. He said it was then known, and it is now understood, that aliens have been manipulating human society through secret societies, witchcraft, magic, the occult, and religion. You think about those 5 subjects and how that was sort of the motivator and the big movers and shakers. And if you want to go far in this world, that you're going to join a secret society. I mean, this goes all the way back to the mystery schools of old, Lucas. It really gives context for how manipulated the human race has been to these malevolent forces for thousands of years.
You know a lot about this Nazi connection, because it seems that everybody thinks that the Nazis lost, especially when America entered the war. But you and a lot of other people have a very different take on that, which also takes us to South America, and it will also take us to the South Pole, to Antarctica, and you visited Antarctica as well. But please, there's like this real society and the Tula Society, and the Tula Society was on Greenland, wasn't it, near the North Pole? So they were kind of everywhere, and supposedly, or very likely, Hitler and others were escaped to South America. And there's a place called Hotel Eden, right?
Oh, you bet. I went and visited there. I was on the trail of the escaped Nazis and Paperclip and the Fourth Reich in America. Well, let's keep in mind the Americas are also South America as well. Lucas, there are huge tracts of land in Chile and Argentina that got bought up before the war. They're as big as some of the smaller states here in the U.S. They still don't know who owns them. They operate as their own small nations. That's where all the money went after the war. You may not be aware, but there are priceless artifacts that have never been recovered after World War II. Some of them were. They were stashing them in the salt mines of Salzburg. I have a picture of a Manet Impressionist painting being recovered. But many others, such as the Spear of Destiny, as well as many tons of gold that just left Europe and nobody knows where it went. And so with all this money and influence, the Fourth Reich in the Americas began, including Antarctica. And I've had the great opportunity of working with Dr. Michael Sala, and some new maps of the Antarctica region have emerged. These are authentic and show pathways underneath the ice, as well as the map of New Schwabenland. I know exactly where they built their New Berlin base. If I were ever to go back down to Antarctica with a film crew, I'd love to go to this particular region and investigate.
We would love to be the film crew.
All right. Well, if we can ever travel internationally without those stupid COVID passports, then let's do it.
Yeah, now it's summer down there, isn't it?
It is summer, but the season is wrapping up. You got about 1 more month before you really need to get out of there. And it's getting very, very cold. 2 years ago today, I just got back within a week or so from my 26 days down there.
Brad, how is that even possible to travel to the South Pole, to Antarctica? You went there and you had a very interesting trip. I mean, how does that happen? Can regular people actually go there? And did you see or discover anything beyond the esoteric down there? What actually took place when you went there?
Well, the South Pole is actually the center of the continent, and that's pretty far. You got to understand, Antarctica is the fifth largest continent of the world, and the distances are vast. So to go to the South Pole is not only a long distance trip, even when you say go to a forward station, and you can go there. Part of the Antarctica Treaty does allow for individuals to travel down there, such as myself. We just got to Ushuaia, Argentina, which is the disembarkment point for 90% of all the ships that go down there, and found a boat that had room and paid them and got on. And now, mind you, I was just in a very small section of the Palmer Peninsula, but it was enough to get a feel for the lay of the land. And as far as I know, I'm the only researcher in this field that's ever actually been there. A lot of people talk about Antarctica, but I don't think really anybody has.
Well, I interviewed a gentleman you may know, Stuart Swerdlow, and I think he went there as well, actually.
Okay, so I should clarify by saying that people who have been in the programs or in the military, some of them as whistleblowers have gone, but as a straight up researcher who's just going there to look into some of these mysteries, I don't think there are many who have. And so everywhere I went, I was asking questions if they've heard of antediluvian civilizations under the ice, if they know of any of the giant craft. And supposedly there are 3 that are like 3 miles in diameter, absolutely ginormous. And they're actually nicknamed the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria, that Columbus named his 3 ships on his voyage. So I do believe I've conclusively discovered one of them, which it happens to be in the New Schwabenland area claimed by Germany. And you can see it on Google Earth if you go in the Wayback Machine to 2013. It's at the Conan Research Station. They still have a research station out there. And in that year, they were doing some excavations, and you can quite clearly see a massive craft under the ice. Other ones, not sure. They could be forgeries. We know how clever people are with Photoshop. So there's so many mysteries about Antarctica and what might be under the ice. The other thing about Antarctica, it is the most volcanically active continent. There's 91 known volcanoes, and some of those, if they're erupting under the ice, will create these large domes where it might actually even be habitable, because the steam that's coming up could provide warm air, could provide free energy, could be a way to melt water and have drinking water, and maybe even another energy source. So people like Corey Good and Emery Smith, who say they've been down there as part of the programs in the military, say that there is this intercorporation conglomerate. So like the secret government or the controllers of the large amount of wealth and corporations, that they do have bases down there. And this is what is suspected, that John Kerry, who is Secretary of State at the end of the Obama administration, he was in Antarctica on election day.
When Trump got elected, huh?
Yeah, you'd think he'd have some business to do to keep his party in power, helping out Hillary, but he was in Antarctica. And a lot of people think he was getting the marching orders, not giving them, but getting them from these controllers down in Antarctica to come back and say, okay, now we got this guy Trump, what are we going to do? And they told him, get him at all costs.
So who do you expect are down there? I mean, a secret society or political top elitists, or who are based down there, or do they travel back and forth, or do you think that people like, let's just say, well, maybe not Epstein, but you know, people like that are maybe being taken down there because nobody know where they are then. I mean, and also maybe you can also go into the Admiral Byrd testimonial about him entered this big hole at the South Pole and discovered this inner Earth civilization, and whether you believe this is true or not. This was a lot, but we're breaking up, so it's better to have a couple of questions in there at once.
Sure. All very interesting questions, and all part of the big question about what's going on down in Antarctica. I'll tell you this, with my questioning at all the research bases, I did find out absolutely 100% there is a huge no-fly zone near the South Pole, right about at the location where Admiral Byrd said that he was able to fly a plane into a giant cavity in the ice. So big that he felt safe enough to drop the plane in with enough room to circle out. And if you look on Google Earth for that, it's all white masked out. They even do like a sloppy job of covering it up. You can actually see the straight lines and contours in the ice that have shadow and just a straight line masking it. So they're hiding something around the South Pole, and they have this no-fly zone, so people aren't able to fly over it and see. And that's just where Byrd said he had discovered this hole in the ice to inner Earth. Now, if that's just into the polar plateau, which at the South Pole is 2 miles deep of ice, and into one of these giant chambers, but he was reporting on megafauna and flora of a kind that could not grow in these frozen climates. And he was an admiral. I mean, he was one of the highest ranking military people in his time, so respected that he was brought up to lead the Operation High Jump. And they were going to this German base, this new Schwabenland claimed area. And they were already flying over this location where the base was and dropping some ordnances on day one. They came back for a bigger bombing campaign on day two, and all the plane just went off the radar, never to hear from those pilots ever again, just disappeared, gone. So right about that time, they were deciding what they were going to do, and up out of the water comes a UFO craft showing signs of anti-gravity, not being affected by the water, and more importantly, not being able to be shot down. It had some kind of force field around, and this craft, it just destroyed one ship. It used like a directed energy beam weapon to slice one ship in half, called the USS Murdoch. This is called the Battle of High Jump. And right after that moment, Admiral Byrd ordered the entire armada, which was down there for 6-month expedition. In 2 months, we're out of here. We're defeated. We're going back. So this is in the winter of 46, 47. And on the way back, he made a very curious interview with a Chilean journalist. And he said, "We will be confronted with an enemy that has the ability to fly pole to pole at incredible speeds." Well, Lucas, as far as I know, there's still no craft in 2021 that can fly pole to pole at incredible speed. But only a couple years later was the very famous flyover of a dozen or so crafts right over the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. And again, they knew they couldn't shoot these things down. They were on video. They were talked about. They were even in the media. What was this? I mean, everybody thought UFOs, aliens, invasion, this and that. They were the Nazi Antarctica contingent that could fly pole to pole at incredible speeds. And they basically forced the U.S. at that point to fully get on board with the Fourth Reich and this other agenda. And of course, this has been withheld from humanity in our history books, but we're piecing it all together. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest contributors to this narrative was the fall of the Soviet Union. because right at the end of 1990, during the fall of the Soviet Union, they were so broke and they were so hard up for currency because the ruble had just massively deflated, that you could show up in Moscow with a suitcase of hard currency and have someone go into the KGB and release all sorts of information. So this is how Antarctica, their knowledge of what happened during high jump came out. There are videos, you can see alien autopsies in Russia, including recovered UFO crafts. There's a movie that came out called Odessa, and the Colombian drug lords were going to the former Soviet Union to buy helicopters and motorcycles and even a submarine to move their narcotics. And they got caught with the submarine, but it just goes to show how money could buy anything. And so this was a great age of truth for getting what the Soviets knew about us. You know, we always think about the CIA spying on them and other people. Well, we've been spied on too. And the fact that we were so humiliated in the Battle of High Jump, that must have been a bit of glee for the Soviets. Say, ha ha, you got burned too by these Nazis. And then it came out in a special in Russian that you can still see on YouTube. You got to read the transcript, but they go all into the Battle of High Jump and Nazi Antarctica and how they moved then to South America and have been influencing the rest of the world ever since. So this is a hidden, unseen force that has been working with these malevolent ETs for about 100 years, ever since the Vril Society, which you mentioned, and the Thule Society, and also the Anunnaki Society. And I cover all those groups in this book, as well as all my Antarctica research is in this particular esoteric book instead of the others, because I had just been there and gathered up all this information. So great questions. I hope I answered them all.
Absolutely. Well, do you think that some of this perhaps could be purposely implemented disinformation also by the CIA, even through the Freedom of Information Act, which even covers, I think, a section about Hitler or something going to South America or to some bases, or I mean there were different things also that we have seen coming from the Freedom of Information Act, but also about Admiral Byrd going into this inner Earth civilization. I mean, this sounds amazing and, you know, a little bit adventurous, and a lot of us would like it to be real. It seems like what we've heard is such a beautiful place in there. But could this be disinformation? Or do you actually think it is real?
Well, it's really hard to know because Antarctica is a very vast continent. You can't fly over it. You can't go investigate it. You can't even see it on Earth. So how do we really know? Yeah, you're right, Lucas. We are flooded with disinformation and misdirections and ways to get sleuths like us off the trail, especially when it pertains to Antarctica, which is quite like the deepest depths of the ocean, and what's under the ice is the last mysteries on this physical planet of ours, that there are just so many mysteries that we don't know what could be going on under these big ice domes with geothermal activity, and there's hot springs there. We got an opportunity to walk through a hot spring. Had the tide not been rolling in and the cold water flooding the hot springs, we could have stripped off our clothes and taken a hot spring in Antarctica. It's not uncommon. There are volcanoes everywhere. It's such a unusual location. It's not like anything you've ever seen. And little things like the animals are really tame. They're not afraid of humans because there's just no human activity down there. We think of Earth as just being so overpopulated and overrun, and there's no room left for nature. Well, there is down in Antarctica. That is the one biosphere preserve as per the Antarctica Treaty. But as far as what the Third Reich Nazis are doing after the war became the Fourth Reich, and as they moved into the Americas, there's a really great show on History Channel, a 3-series show called Hunting Hitler. And indeed, I went to many of these locations. You mentioned the Eden Hotel. I did a tour there. It's in a place called La Falda, and you swear you're just driving into a Bavarian town when you get there. And it was owned by this very wealthy industrialist family named the Eichhorns, and there's pictures of them dining with her. Like, they had very exclusive access to him. And I did the tour, and afterwards the guide, he could speak English very well, and he seemed to like me, and I was polite. And I said, do you really think that Hitler survived the war and he was here in La Falda after World War II? And he goes, I don't think it, I know it. He said, there's an old woman right here in town who is a teenage chambermaid, and she remembers Hitler and Eva Braun and Martin Bormann and a few others who were alive and well and just hiding out. And they had, if you see the History Channel show, Hunting Hitler, they had all these safe houses and place to go. And I went down to Bariloche as well, and one of his houses was there called the Anaclo House. And it had a seaplane that if they had to escape in a hurry, they could fly out the seaplane and go right over the mountain range to Chile. Was within sight of Bariloche. So it makes that he would escape. They had the convoy of submarines, the most advanced submarine fleet the world has ever seen, including these submarines that were like cargo ships that could have taken the craft down that they were working on at the Skoda Works in Czech Republic and got it out of there. By the time the Soviets were the first ones into the Czech Republic, they found nothing there. Only a couple of scientists with a bullet to their head, and clearly they probably didn't want to go along with the plan. But everything else and everyone else and all the material were cleared out of there, presumably in Antarctica. And this is what the Battle of High Jump was all about. So if taken together with what Admiral Byrd has told us, including his flight to the interior of the continent, it does suggest that there is something big going on down there, as well as the inclusion of some of these malevolent ET groups that were aiding and abetting the Nazis, both before, during, and after World War II.
Mm-hmm. And if we already know that somebody like Saddam Hussein, he had different doppelgangers. Yep. So why shouldn't Hitler have one? And maybe that was one that was placed there and killed in front of the bunker. If we can even expect that picture, the pictures we've seen are real, so why shouldn't he escape? I mean, we already know about all of the Nazi scientists, and of course von Braun, who was taken to America to do experiments. And you also talk about Werner von Braun, and he was part of the whole NASA thing there, and he even revealed secrets about the coming New World Order, which was already implemented at the time, and we are certainly facing it and seeing it unfold in front of our eyes today, here in the beginning of 2021. Please talk a little bit about that and von Braun and what he revealed to Carol Rosen or Rosen, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Carol Rosen, who was his assistant. And he would often say that, Carol, we're going to be confronted with all of these false flags, all of these false enemies. The first ones will be these invisible enemies, such as terrorists. You never know who they are. They don't come from a specific nation. The virus is an invisible enemy now. He would say always that the final card to be played would be a fake alien invasion using very sophisticated holograms, in which we already see that Michael Jackson or Tupac can do a whole concert as a hologram, and it looks absolutely real. And combined with voice to skull technology, they would start with a Messiah, or the Prophet Muhammad in Muslim countries, or the Buddha or Hindu gods in India. And in the language of the people, these entities would speak to them and promise this coming age, or set them up for this UFO invasion. All of it would be fake. And this is the last game to be played, according to Werner von Braun himself, to Carol Rosen, who went around to conferences for many, many years and spoke of this. Now, Werner von Braun.
Project Bluebeam, huh?
Project Bluebeam is what it's called. That's right.
And they already projected a picture of the Virgin Mary in the harbor of Havana.
It's already starting. Yeah. And then there's another one of Michael Jackson, of all people. And these holograms are starting to appear. I think they're kind of doing beta runs to see how people are going to react.
So can we even suspect, and I know this is going to be a little bit of a controversial question also for a lot of people in our community here, could we even suspect that the whole UFO field is also a psyop? That all of this is also part of this Project Bluebeam technology, maybe, because a lot of people haven't really seen aliens, and then some people say that they have, but could that also be part of a holographic illusion projected to people at military bases, or even UFO crafts that people see, that may even actually be military crafts made at these underground bases or military bases, secret bases?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we know that they have cloaking technology as well as ways to disguise themselves, or even use clouds, which has often been reported at Mount Shasta, for example, these lenticular clouds that come in with the wind direction, that anchor on top of the mountain for a few hours and then go back against the wind from the direction they came, that make no sense. So there are a whole bunch of technologies to mask, disguise, or disclose a different kind of craft. But I'd have to say that this is more, as far as our secret space program goes, or backward engineered technology, that this would be more in the last couple decades. That the beginning of UFO sightings, say in the 40s and 50s, that those were probably more authentic, or if we were to ascribe them to another entity, perhaps they could have been these Nazi craft that flew over the Capitol building in 52. So there's a lot of woo-woo in this subject, and it's really hard to know exactly what is truth from fiction or disinformation. But you get a character like Werner von Braun, who is a decorated SS officer, and this is their occult secret society within the ranks of Nazi Germany. He should have been at the Nuremberg trials, Lucas. He should have been there being sentenced to death, because he was running forced labor camp at Peenemünde, which is not too far from you guys up on the Jutland Peninsula there, where they were doing their testing of the V1 and the V2 rockets, which rained down on London. And Werner von Braun was responsible for thousands of people dying from that. Yet he gets shipped over here and heads up NASA and becomes like this very highly decorated former soldier who becomes one of us. Well, I found this out recently, and there are National Geographic articles about Antarctica, and Werner von going down to Antarctica fairly regularly. There's an author I know, he's pretty popular, named Joseph Farrell. He does a bunch of books on the Nazis too. And in it, he always says that they had this these attaché bags that they were also bringing down different communications in touch that way. So not to use the phone or any way that could be intercepted, excuse me, but passing on documents amongst themselves. And Werner von Braun, being a high-level diplomat, would be able to have diplomatic immunity and not have his briefcase searched. So according to Joseph Farrell, that this was fairly common throughout the late 1940s and 1950s as a form of communication among those stationed in Antarctica and South America, especially around the town of Cordoba. So the hills of La Falda, where the Eden Hotel are, it's just a half-day drive up into these hills. There's another mountain range in Argentina a lot of people don't know about. But it's also famous for UFO sightings. And it's even in The Lonely Planet. We're reading about all the abductions that have taken place and the ground being burned when these craft land. So we spent a night there watching the mountains, see if we see anything. We didn't. But I was talking to my friend David Hatcher Childress, who's one of the stars in Ancient Aliens, and he knew all about it. And he was planning to go down there, maybe even with a film crew with Ancient Aliens. And I'll do my best imitation of Dave. He's like, "Oh, Brad, what people don't know is those UFOs, they were all German craft. They have a massive underground base right there near La Falda, and they were doing their engineering there. So when everybody saw the UFOs, they were the German craft." And it kind of makes sense that they would, these underground bases, they were very good at it. You know, the TODT organization taught, he died during World War II, but he was this master engineer of building underground bases. And a lot of this information is starting to come out now, Lucas, about these deep underground military bases, or DUMBs. Of course, I do cover that in the chapter here in Beyond Esoteric, but this is when the esoteric changes form to become exoteric. So when everybody starts to find out about the DUMBs and children coming out of there and the human trafficking that's been related, it's not so secret anymore. And the word actually changes. So they built these incredible DUMBs in South America on these private tracts of land I was describing to you, but also in the Andes Mountains and elsewhere. There's actually an old network of ancient tunnels throughout the Andes that go for hundreds of miles. And one of the guys who I went down to Antarctica with on the sailboat, he got the opportunity to go into one of the entrances in Bolivia, near the town of Araru. And I went there too, and he showed me the pictures and videos and going down, and unfortunately they didn't go very far, but he said, the guide said, they go for on and on and on for miles, and they're very, very old. Yeah.
So please talk a little bit about the underground military bases in the US. Now, you just mentioned those in South America, but the underground military bases in the US, all over the country and also in Europe, are they, well, interconnected under the ground, not only in America, but in fact all over the world, like fast, long distance underground travel by this military high tech? How would you describe it, and what is actually going on underneath these, underneath the ground at these bases? You talked a little bit about this extraterrestrial technology and even ETs being there, but we have had a lot of different testimonials or people speculating about what's happening there. What are your thoughts about what's going on?
It's very much happening. So this is what the Mach 2 speed tunnels look like. They have a whole network where you could travel in these underground tubes at very high speeds, faster than you could in train travel. And here's another map of all the largest bases, largest underground DUMBs. This is not fiction at all. This is part of continuity of government, or COG. This started right after World War II, when we got their engineers to come over here and help us build these things. They started around Washington, D.C. In case there was a nuclear war with Russia, Soviet Union, all members of Congress, president, would evacuate into the continuity of government. They even have a White House in Colorado, where they're all connected there near Cheyenne Mountain. That would be this continuity of government. So you could keep the government going even if the surface was completely destroyed. They have enough stockpiles of food, sources of water to live down in these bases for decades. They don't have to come up. And this is part of the plan of the elite, would be, if we did go into this World War III scenario, that they could scurry down into these underground bases like cockroaches again, and live their lives in actually quite luxurious accommodations. They even have greenhouses for growing fresh fruit and vegetables. but also they create parks and atmospheres. The biggest one of all is underneath the Denver International Airport. And I'm flying into Denver again in weeks to film another episode on Beyond Belief with George Norrie at Gaia. And every time I fly in there, I see new little clues to the underground bases. Not only that, but the way you fly into the runways are all shaped like a swastika.
Yes, I've also been there and seen that, and also seen what's actually all of the walls there in the terminal hall, and also there's kind of a little devil as a mascot there, huh?
Gremlin that's reaching into your baggage, and it's the New World Airport, they call it, and there's a plaque with the Masonic symbology all over the place. But what I find is even more interesting, if you fly in on a clear day, look off in the distance, because the grounds around DIA are enormous. It's hundreds of acres. And way off in the distance, you can sometimes what could be the entrances to some of these domes. And there's a massive one there. This is the big one, and it goes down many levels. And it's an entire underground city below Denver. This would be the biggest continuity of government, or continuity of the elite. Yeah, they get to live, but all the rest of us get sacrificed in the conflagration above ground and thermonuclear war. So these people are sick. They need to go down. And I've often said, Lucas, that the revolution is consciousness. And indeed, the pen is mightier than the sword. So it's researchers and people in media doing a great job like you that are helping people understand this and get the word out. And it's going to be us waking up to these draconian laws, as your fellow countrymen have started to do in Denmark. Now, I hope you can hold them back with this new round of legislation, but they push and then we push back, and we have to do it in the Gandhian and Martin Luther King model of nonviolent resistance, because we can't fight them with guns.
We certainly try to do our best. But also in your book, Beyond the Esoteric, you write, and I quote, "One person with a vision is enough to change the world. One Gandhi was enough. One Tesla was enough." But how did that actually help the world? Gandhi's vision was never implemented anywhere in the world after his death to benefit the world population, and Tesla's extraordinary and important technology was stolen by the deep state and actually used for bad. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, now we have the Tesla electric car, and you have people like Martin Luther King who emulated Gandhi's model.
Yeah, but the Tesla car is Elon Musk, huh? Who's done the satellite grid and the whole AI connection thing, which I also want to touch upon.
The Neuralink chip in the brain. I won't take the chip in the brain.
Lovely.
And no, thank you. I think my brain works okay the way it does. Don't need to enhance.
Definitely. But I mean, Gandhi, of course we all treasure what Gandhi stood for, but I mean, how did that help anyone? And also Tesla's technology was taken and even investigated by Donald Trump's uncle, John G. Trump, who was there for I don't know how long, and then he came out and said, well, there was nothing really there and nothing special. But of course, we see all of the possibilities that Tesla made possible, and some of it's just been hidden from us, and some of it is now used for bad, I would suggest, huh?
Well, that's the double-edged sword to all this. Technology is just what it is. A good example is a hammer. You can use a hammer to build your shelter and keep you safe and warm in inclement weather, or you can use it to bash someone's head in.
Or smash your smart meter.
Right. It's just kind of how we use this technology. And I work with a nonprofit organization called World Peace Through Technology that produces the How Weird Street Fair. And our whole message is to highlight benevolent technology, that which will help the human race moving into the future, but being very well aware that similar technologies can also be used to greatly harm the human race as well. So we have to make that distinction, and people need to know that there is a difference between different technologies.
We would like to see something a little bit more positive happening soon, huh? This has been a really, really rough year on the world, and it seems like it's only getting worse. However, there's also a message here for a lot of people. More people have been waking up, and a lot of people have had time for reflection about what is really important in their lives. So I guess there's also something good coming from this world tragedy, really, that we're seeing at the moment. And I think it's also about human connections. And what I find interesting also in your book, and of course, and indeed a very important topic right now, is your list of personal codes of ethics. And you write this very fascinating, very good list of this codes of of ethics, and it would be great if you can address that and how and why this is very important at this particular time.
Well, sure, I'd be happy to read this, and I have to say it is not my writing. I quote Maura Shea, and you'll see why, is that we give credit where credit's due. Failing to credit people for their idea works is considered stealing, and we know cheating them of their hard work. But number one, be honest. The more honest you are, the more trustworthy you become. Have integrity. The better of a person you are, the better of an image you present. Be responsible. You must be responsible in life so that others can rely on you. Tell the truth. The value of truth is immeasurable, because without it, the world would just be filled with lies. Be courteous. Every act of kindness makes a difference in the life of someone. Have respect. One of the most important things is to treat others as you wish to be treated. Trust and be trustworthy. Trust in the building block of relationships we create in our lives. Be harmonious. To live together and get along with everyone is a delicacy that we all long for. Don't change who you are to please others. It's not worth becoming a completely different person simply to make other people happy, because doing so, you may be making yourself unhappy. And that's in the author's karma statement of Beyond Esoteric. And I'm glad you brought that up, Lucas, because I've always felt that what you guys are doing is a very noble cause. I love to speak to my European friends and know that we're all in this struggle together. I know Americans often get a bad rap for being loud and obnoxious when we go traveling in Europe and backpacking around and whatnot, but we're not like that, all of us. And we can learn some from you as you from us. And those that are in this game know that we're in it together, that all good people will unite and go by this personal code of ethics. And through that, we will win in the end.
We're all the same, really, aren't we? We're all the same, and we all should and can love each other, and we all have wonderful friends, or a lot of, people like you and me. We have a lot of friends across the waters on each side, so it's absolutely wonderful, and we always love to go to the US and hope to come back as soon as possible, if ever it will be possible again. Of course, it will somehow. But these words, this list is a wonderful, these are wonderful words to live by. And I think in this day and age where people are really fighting each other, this is the Hegelian dialectic that the governments around the world has really imposed on the population, trying to make everybody fight each other. People are snitching and showing their worst side, and people are falling out with their family members, and relationships are breaking up. So this is a wonderful list, and I think this was why it was important to address it.
Thanks for bringing it up. And yeah, we are all in this together, and the good people know that. The bad wants to see us divided, but if you believe in God or a higher power, you should know that the good wants us to win in this battle as well. And we are in a historic battle. I think it's the most opportune time in any of our lives to have this chance to witness it all unfolding, and just do your part and being a good person. A lot of people think that they're helpless or can't do anything about it, but really everybody has a role in this. Everybody has a role to play, and just by being a good person and giving $1 to the homeless or being charitable with your time, that's all it takes. That's all it takes. And don't feel despondent that the whole world is caving in on you, because there is a divine plan behind all this. We may not know exactly what that is until we leave these bodies of ours, but I do believe that there are good forces at work. And you can also see in karma that you do good things in the world and good things come back to you. And we've seen it all with people who make bad decisions and are hurtful or mean, and that's what comes back to them. So you get what you give in this world. And so it's very good to have a code of ethics and to do the very best you can every day of your life. And we'll get through this.
So this is, of course, an extremely important message, and it's very important and vital with a positive message at this point in time. And we need that at this moment in order for people to understand that there is hope. They can take charge over their own lives. They can say no to things they don't want, and understand that we can change the world for the better through greater awareness and becoming stronger because of all of this information we are acquiring right now. But we also need to address something really scary and a very hot topic at the moment. The topic of nanotechnology, microchipping, AI, artificial intelligence, DNA modifications. Are they trying to link human consciousness and the human mind and the human brain to AI, artificial intelligence, in order to be able to steer us emotionally, to control our thoughts, and also to direct our thoughts in a specific way that they would want to, in order to benefit them in one way or the other. But more importantly, are they actually connecting human souls to AI, artificial intelligence, in order to imprison the souls, to catch the souls, or to absorb them at the point of death, so that we can't leave this earthly realm maybe, or this matrix, break free of the matrix, being forced maybe to go into this karma wheel, soul trap, white light. I don't know if we actually discussed that in one of our previous interviews with you. Please tell me if we did. Or maybe if AI can actually absorb these souls. This is also a topic which I find very important to just talk to you about. What are your thoughts on this? Can we break free? Do we have free will? Or AI? What is AI really?
Right. And that's when it does get pretty nefarious as far as the control agenda. We did touch upon this in one of our previous talks, and it is in my book, Future Esoteric, about the soul trap and how going to the light may not be in your best interest, but to return to source altogether, and that our planet has been on lockdown and a kind of quarantine for quite a while, that the souls that are brought here pretty much get trapped here. And So we started the show by discussing what beyond escaping prison planet might be. And so that would be my answer, is that a lot of us have been trapped here in many, many lifetimes. I get into reincarnation in my book, Modern Esoteric. And I grew up an atheist. I had parents that didn't take us to church, but just knew through my travels and recognizing places and even communicating with a recently deceased grandfather on the top of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. That changed my entire perspective to knowing that we're all humans having the spiritual experience, not the other way around. We're not spirits having the human experience, as a popular bumper sticker says. And so when you come to this realization, and back to the code of ethics, that everything you do and say affects the outcome of your life and everything else, I think that's how we defeat this AI agenda as well, is that when you're in a state that cannot be corrupted, and will not accept this mark of the beast or whatever they're going to roll it out as being some convenience that we can go to a checkout counter and just scan our hand. No thanks. I'll take an extra second and give you some money. I don't need that extra convenience, and I never lose my keys, so I don't need that either. They're going to roll out all these reasons why we should get it and comply. And see, this is the really important point here. We have free will. We can say no, even though everybody else is doing it and our friends think we should and our family condemns us if we don't. You have free will to act on your own behalf. And until we're forcibly laid on a table and tied down and given this stuff, you have a choice to say no. And I know that's my answer. How this AI is going to roll out and how it affects us in a spiritual way, boy, that's a bigger question. And I think it's very fresh on people's radar as far as how far this AI is going to go. Again, it's a double-edged sword. Maybe AI could be the judge and jury in a very fair, meaningful way. I've heard that being a future for AI, is that criminals could be judged based on their aura alone, that you can't lie anymore, that it's going to be well known in that regard. So there could be some things that it could help us with, but I always revert back to Isaac Asimov when he wrote about the laws of robotry, that robots are never allowed to ever hurt humans. Same would go with AI, that it could never be allowed to suppress us or go against the benefit of the human race. Well, we've already crossed the Rubicon with robots because we have drones that are remote controlled and can kill and have killed humans. So we've already gone past that first law of robotry, that thou shalt never kill a human. And AI could be the very next step, but perhaps there's still time to keep this in check and not allow the full spectrum of AI to really take over and control the human race. But it's a scary possibility, and I'm glad you brought it up, Lucas, because it's something we should definitely.
We lost you for just a second. Can you just repeat the very last few words there?
That AI is very new. AI is something we should be all made well aware of, and keep in mind that this is like a tool that could be used for or against us. But now that we're getting into artificial intelligence, that, according to Ray Kurzweil, will surpass the human mind after 2030, that we're dealing with something that is far more intelligent, with more capacity to learn as it grows than humans have. So how do we keep the genie in the bottle while still hoping to get those 3 wishes the genie promises us? It's a double-edged sword, and it's like technology with a hammer. It can be used against us or it can work with us. I'm hoping for the latter.
But we also know about advanced human abilities and that humans can be programmed, heightened human superpowers. In fact, part of mind control programming, right? Or super soldiers. Would you say that this is something that these are abilities that humans actually have and could explore and use if, say, the pineal gland wasn't calcified, or we weren't dumbed down, or we could use our full potential and DNA and brain capacity, full brain capacity, that we could have these same abilities like what we've heard about these super soldiers? Or is it, could some of those super soldiers, some of them, also be hybrids?
Well, that's a great question, Lucas, and I know super soldiers. I speak with them. In fact, I'm moderating a conference in Las Vegas next month with several super soldiers who don't really like that term so much. They prefer augmented soldiers, and they're doing that with augmenting their mental capacities, their physical abilities, and making them more effective at their jobs within the military. Now, whether or not AI and some of these other technologies are going to be like the bionic man, or we're going to have robot policemen that could go rogue on us, the future is nothing but a series of probabilities. And one of those probabilities are it could become a very draconian robot AI driven world. Well, who's doing the programming is what I always ask. Who's the one that's unleashing this? Is it just the dark cabal among us human races, or is it perhaps a malevolent ET group that is unleashing this on us? And if that's the case, then perhaps we do need some help from the benevolence, because if this gets really out of control, it could really send us into the darkest dystopian, Orwellian, nightmarish police state that we could ever imagine.
And a lot of people also talk about that they have they have this electromagnetic frequency span, or those beams that they can actually use in order to, like voice to skull technique, to put these frequencies or beam them to easily suggestible people. Let's say people that are not aware of these things and haven't gone through a so-called portal of awakening, or, I mean, this sounds a bit arrogant, it wasn't meant to be, but that they actually use this technique in order to dumb people down or put them in this fear trap, in order to make them go along with everything, all of the restrictions and the regulations and everything that's happening at the moment.
Well, people who have no idea what voice to skull technology and start to hear voices in your head, go get an RFID chip. It's good for you. Yes, master, I am going now. Well, there are a lot of weak-minded people in the world, and you could say that our society has created that group of people. And, well, in the end, they'll kind of be the useful idiots. They'll be the compliant ones that do get taken out first. And there is a depopulation agenda at hand, and the people who are paying attention that just say no and believe that, hey, I have an immune system, and if I eat right and exercise, that, geez, I can just fend off just about any of these viruses or diseases. I don't need to get the V word shot up in me. So that's when knowing these esoteric subjects, it really does become a matter of life and death, and your quality of life can depend on it. So knowledge is power, and the more you know to see that magician's trick, the better equipped you'll be to make good, proper decisions in the future.
So it's all definitely about consciousness and awareness in order to escape this prison planet, as you write so much about in your new book. But also a question we just must address before wrapping up here today. a topic that certainly has divided the truth movement a lot, and divided conspiracy researchers, was whether or not you were supporting Donald Trump, or not trusting him at all to be anything else than just a pawn or tool for the New World Order. And now we are here in late February 2021, and Trump is gone. We don't really hear from him at the moment. Actually, we don't hear much from the so-called new president, who may not have been well elected, Joe Biden. We don't really hear much from him at this moment. So what is all this? What is actually going on, do you think, with the whole Trump thing? A lot of people thought he was going to drain the swamp and trust the plan and all of that. But what have we really been seeing here lately?
Oh, we're seeing a pantomime show of a fake president down in Hollywood here, only about 100 miles away in Canoga Park at the Castle Rock Studios, where they have a set of the White House and even the exterior. But trucks never park in front of the window of the White House. You never see two set walls coming apart. You never see the wallpaper and the window panes being totally different on the next day after inauguration. So there's a lot of trickery behind it. And that's why, isn't it funny, when Trump was in office, you'd see his name in the media almost all the time, negative story every day. Now you can't even go to Drudge Report right now, even see Biden anywhere. He's kind of invisible. Yeah, look, it was a stolen election. If anyone has doubts, try to find Mike Lindell's video. It's about 2 hours that goes into detail about how many different ways this election was stolen. So it's not entirely unprecedented that we could have two presidents right now in America. It happened during the Civil War. We had Abraham Lincoln, and then we had Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy. And there are even some religious people who have prophesied that there would be this time of two presidents. And isn't it funny that Trump, knowing dang well that his election got stolen from him, has gone quiet, is just letting things happen, the mechanizations that are turning in Washington, D.C., which, by the way, still has all barbed wire fences up, still has tens of thousands of troops, which will be stationed there until mid-March. It was just recently disclosed that the troops aren't going anywhere, at least for a couple more weeks. And there are big operations being conducted.
They do talk about March, don't they?
Can you repeat that?
They talk about something is going to happen in March with Trump as well, but can we even trust that? And then what's going to happen? Could he be just another pawn for the New World Order in order to divide the growing truth movement, and so many millions now asking very critical questions?
And they're very important questions, and we should keep asking these questions. I was on with Kerry Cassidy a couple days ago, and we were talking about the now there is video footage of children coming out.
Brad, you're breaking up. Brad, you have to please repeat that, because you're breaking up, or maybe somebody is interfering here, but let's please get what you're saying there, because that seems to be quite important.
We're talking about the proof now of children being rescued out of the deep underground military bases, including video footage of children being let out in the middle of the night at not only the White House itself, and sometimes even what look like officers carrying little bundles of infant children, small children coming out in the dead of night. And I don't know if you know this, but the White House turns off its lights in the middle of the night every night. That's very unusual. It has never happened before. But it's because the people who are coming out of these chambers, they can't be exposed to the light, not even at night with lights being on, and they go into buses that have windows that are shielded, and they have to be brought to a place where they are slowly being accustomed to the light again. So we're talking about things that are just going to shock this nation to its core, and the whole world, when this is learned, is going to be an incredible wake-up call. And that's why the occult is moving.
But how can we see this video, Brad? Where do we see this, or how do we see the evidence for this? This is, of course, really not only poignant, but totally extremely important.
Gene Decode, who does a lot of work on the underground bases and who reports on them being cleared out, that we have the white hat group going in and clearing out the underground bases. He has brought out the video he did with Linda Paris on Before It's News, is where I saw the video. Of course, you can't put this on YouTube anymore. I'm not sure if it was Rumble or BitChute where they shot it, but Gene Decode is one who's bringing out this video of the children coming out of Washington, D.C. This is very disturbing to even consider what was going on down there. I think in the end, we have to understand all this to really get by it. We're going to have a truth and reconciliation moment of our own, much like South Africa, to come to terms with this this darkness that has befallen us. And only by understanding how they're doing it can we defeat them and get them out of the way and then move forward.
And I think more and more is coming out now, also topics and things that we have been discussing and talking about for years and writing about as well. Just the other day, there was an official news article about geoengineering and weather modification, which is really actually HARP technology, and that we've been talking about for such a long time, and that they want to use this technology to cover the earth from the sun, maybe with clouds, creating clouds by the year 2025. But of course, we know that this has been in use for decades maybe, and this is a climate change. Oh yeah, you have actually, of course, a whole section about geoengineering in your book as well. You're actually connecting all of the dots there. But do you think, finally here, that the climate change agenda is the ultimate plan, not only for depopulation, but actually the plan that they'll get back to after this whole CV crisis?
Yeah, we know that they've been geoengineering the planet. Mostly the NATO countries and countries that have been working on their own geoengineering programs, such as Russia and China. Do you remember during the Winter Olympics, when China in the year 2000, they said, we guarantee it will not rain. And they were geoengineering the heck out of the skies, and sure enough, it didn't rain. I have an expat friend that lives in Cambodia. It's one of the countries that does not do geoengineering, and he knew exactly what chemtrails look like. He's been there now for almost 5 years. He says he's never seen a single geoengineering cloud or chemtrail. So there's some countries that don't do it, but others that do, but it still disperses around the world, and it is a delivery system. Another chapter at the end is about Morgellons and other things that they've been putting in the geoengineering mix to affect humans. So again, learning about this stuff, knowing about it, becomes your power and allows you to see through all this trickery in the world today. So it's very important that people empower themselves with information that will help them make critical decisions and become better critical thinkers as well.
And maybe also one of the most important things to study at this very moment is germ theory versus terrain theory, huh?
That's in the book as well, in the bioterrain chapter, about how Louis Pasteur, the father of microbiology, and one germ, one cure. He was on his deathbed recanting that, saying it's all about the bioterrain. And knowing about the bioterrain is knowing that you don't have to succumb to these freaking jabs and biochips and all the rest that they're pushing down on us, trying to make it seem like it's so convenient and good for us and give us a double passport. But it's an anti-human depopulation agenda, and we just have to resist. Nonviolent resistance changed the world. It freed India, it freed the black people in this country, and it'll free the rest of us if we operate in the same way.
Mm-hmm. And you are really connecting all of the dots almost, it seems, in this book. And you go into JFK, who tried to break up the central bank, UN Agenda 21, eugenics and world control, and how to get out of the matrix and the malevolent spirit world, even like what you also just mentioned here about Washington, rent boy, Vatican sex rings, and so many things in this fascinating new book that I'm sure a lot of people would love to get a hold of. And how can they purchase it, Brad?
I've never had a book launch this successful. It's already into its second printing in 2 months. There were some supply chain disruptions. Hopefully it's getting out to you guys in Europe. You can always go to your local bookstore and have them order it. But for anyone internationally, it's expensive for us to send it through CCC Publishing. I'll just tell you up front, it's about $28 on top of the book. So if you can get it locally, I know that our distributor is getting it out there. But people who want to pay the extra postage and get it right away, or a signed copy, or here in the US at USA book rate, they can go to cccpublishing.com, and those book orders go through my office, and I'm able to sign copies on the way out. And if you want to know more about me and the projects I work on, bradolsen.com. I'll have a YouTube channel, CCC Publishing and Esoteric series, and find me on the socialist medias, but I'm kind of shying away from that because of all the censorship, so not quite as active as I used to be.
You are certainly a great man and a fascinating man, and this has been wonderful talking to you again, Brad, and we really enjoyed this. And in spite of the interruptions with the connection here, I hope we got everything, and it's been great. I'm looking forward to having you on the show again. So thank you so much, Brad Olsen, for being on Age of Truth TV.
It was really great to talk to you again, Lucas. You ask all the right questions. You're very curious-minded like myself, and really today.
Great. That's good. Thank you so much, Brad. It was a joy to see you again, and we covered a lot, so I really enjoyed it.
Oh, you too, Lucas. Thank you for responding to my request to be on the Age of Truth. It's always great to talk to you.
Thank you very much to Brad Olsen, and thanks to all of you for watching Age of Truth TV. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. You can also sign up for our newsletter as well on our website, ageoftruth.tv. Also to be notified if we have new shows out, which we have to broadcast from some of our alternative channels such as BitChute, Brighteon, and Rumble, and please do subscribe to us there as well. On behalf of the Age of Truth TV team, we thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support. We'll see you again soon.